So Tulsa, Oklahoma, as you just mentioned, tell us about that upbringing, because there's a lot of rich history based off what you know about Tulsa, Oklahoma. So especially someone that's been able to walk the grounds. Tell us about that history of the city.
Yeah, I was so blessed to be born in Tulsa at that time. To the people who surrounded me and poured into me. I'm wearing a shirt today that says Greenwood, and if you know a little bit of the history of Black Wall Street, Greenwood was Main Street.
Yeah.
That was where most of the businesses were located, the churches, the nightclubs. They were called Deep Greenwood. Once you got past the churches, you went to Deep Greenwood. I don't know if I ever made it to Deep Greenwood. I talked to some older folks when I wanted to learn a little bit more about Deep Greenwood, but it was the center, the heartbeat of the Black neighborhood. And of course, between 1900 throughout the first half of the 20th century, there were more Black businesses in Tulsa than any city except Harlem. That's how it got the name Black Wall Street. And I was very fortunate because my father owned a business on Greenwood. I later learned, because my father died when I was 12 years old, so I didn't know a lot about him. Right. But I grew up in the store. I grew up around him, around the men who would hang out at night and tell lies and talk on their way to Deep Greenwood, the church ladies who would come in after church with the hats, and the kids, because they had a jukebox. So I call it like the Black Happy Days, right? If you're old enough to remember that show, it was kind of a soda fountain jukebox where people hung out. That was what my dad's store was. I wish I had those 45s from that jukebox, but it was a great place for community, great place to learn. I learned how to count by being able to make change, because I had to learn to wait on people. I had made 25 cents an hour, so Dad paid me. And if I wanted any candy, he would take it out of my paycheck. And I was a fat little kid. So my priorities were not correct. But I learned so much. And there is a woman who is still alive named Viola West. And her second job out of college was working for my dad. And she kind of became a surrogate mom. She still calls me her oldest son, because my mother was involved with the church and she had to babysit me a lot. So she tells people that she taught me to read by the time I was 2, that my dad was overprotective, and she'd kind of let me play closer to the street and Dad would lose his mind. But that's where she first heard about the Tulsa Race Massacre. She said she was listening to my dad speak to a gentleman in the store. She was 19 at the time, fresh off the boat, so to speak, out of college. And they were talking about this race riot at the time, which had happened in 1921. So now we're talking like 1950s. And she went over, she said, "Mr. Johnson, was there a riot here?" And they started talking about it, but another customer came in. So she went home and she asked her grandmother, said, "Grandma, was there a riot here?" Grandma said, "Don't ever mention those words again." Because there was a conspiracy of silence that lasted for decades. I didn't learn about the race massacre until I was at least in high school. Blacks didn't talk about it. Whites didn't talk about it. And when I asked people later on why not, many said that, well, from the African-American standpoint, nobody talks about getting their ass kicked. And that's what happened is that whites came in on May 31st and June 1st and burned down several blocks worth of businesses, homes, killed people, up to 300 people, depending on who you believe. And it was largely ignored. Nobody was ever prosecuted. Insurance companies wouldn't pay. The reason they called it a riot was so they could blame African Americans who were attacked in their own neighborhood, but they could blame them, and so therefore they didn't have to pay. But what people don't talk about, this was 1921, is the rebirth. So by the time I came along, Black Wall Street had pretty much been rebuilt. Maybe not to the extent that it was in the 1920s, but it was still a thriving economic community and neighborhood. So when people talk about the race massacre, that's not a period, that was a comma. And another example of the kind of resiliency that flows in our blood going back generations. It was rebuilt, it was restored. And the reason it doesn't exist is maybe another conversation. One time I asked Viola, said, "Well, why do you think Black Wall Street disappeared?" She did not hesitate. She said, "Because people like you didn't come home." I was like, okay, because I went to college at Stanford University in California, and then from there moved to New York. And you talk about I guess your resources leaving and not coming back.
Yeah.
You know, she thinks that my generation, because we had more opportunities, because we could go to the Stanfords and the Harvards,